Hi everyone, my name is Alan Mueller. I'm an enterprise architect with the Eaton Corporation, and I'm here to talk to you today about leveraging MarkLogic with product data. So first off, who is Eaton? After that, I'll talk about some types of data, customer-facing data, bills of material, some future plans that we have, and then a wrap-up. So first of all, Eaton. So Eaton is a global diversified industrial company. We have about 97,000 employees worldwide. Our focus is on power management. We have some offshoots and some odds and ends besides that as well. We have nearly 7 million products. So obviously our interest in product data is intense. We have products in the electrical, automotive, aerospace, filtration, hydraulics spaces, a lot of places. A lot of people use Eaton components or parts and they don't know it. Our things are typically built into something else. We have different types of products as well as different types of product data. Our main product types are off-the-shelf products, just something you buy, it's ready-made, it's packaged, and you order it. We have configure to order. A large part of our business is configure to order. And we do some engineer to order as well. So I would say about a third of our business is configure to order, maybe even more. So, and then within those types of products, we have different types of product data. So we have what I'll call customer-facing data. That's the information we need to sell a product, to ship it, to market it, all that kind of good stuff. Then we have more information about how the products are built or configured or engineered. So that's typically bills, we would call bills of material. Then we have the parts that go inside of our product, so supplier parts. And then we have a lot of relationships. So our product data has a lot of relationships, and I'll get into each of these in more detail as we kind of go through the presentation here. So the first topic I want to cover is customer-focused product data, the stuff you need to sell information or sell products, excuse me. So the first thing is, with a company like Eaton, your products have vastly differing attributes. And all these things contribute to a very significant design challenge, right? So on the left here, you'll see starters and timers and contactors. On the right hand, you'll see hydraulic pumps, right? Totally different animals, totally different set of product attributes. Makes designing a database for these types of products difficult. We've got multiple units of measure, so that adds to the design challenge. Now every attribute you have could potentially have a different unit of measure you have to show somebody. They all have different certifications, so there may be multiples, and a certification may be valid for one product in one region or another, depending on how things work. You've got different packaging options and shipping requirements. So the packaging, you could buy it in packs of 10, packs of 12, by the foot, by the inch. Depends on what you're dealing with. And the shipping requirements, where you can ship things, how you can ship it, that kind of information. And you take all that and you add the images and the brochures and the manuals that are necessary to market and show these products. And you multiply that by X number of languages, and you're going to multiply not only the values of the data that you have, but you're also going to multiply that by the metadata, so the information, the labels and things like that surrounding your data. All that has to get stirred in as well. And then you're going to have different languages by region, country, and province. In some places you need to show a set of product data in multiple languages depending on the county even, or the province you're in. So all this is very challenging, and when you go and step into the relational database world and you try and model this, you're going to get something that looks like this. This is a very faint ERD on the right hand side, and you'll see as you take all those things and all those data elements and normalize them, you get a very complicated schema. The structure gets very difficult to work with very quickly. And I would say it's okay to have a structure like this to manage the data, because typically you're dealing with little bits at a time. But when you want to consume that information, the queries are difficult, and search is really impossible, I'd say. I mean, it's just not gonna happen. Any type of query that involves multiple elements, testing values of multiple elements is very difficult. The performance is going to be lousy. And that doesn't matter which relational database you work with, you're just going to struggle there. And everything you deal with is going to be complicated. In other words, that unless you have some controlling body building your queries, there's a good likelihood that different people will get different results. Another thing is that data security at search time is very difficult. So if you have somewhere in this schema some ITAR information buried, and you need to get that out or filter the rest of your output based on that, that's very difficult. And so I'm going to pose a question too. This is one that we've faced for quite a while, and that is, in a schema like this, do you really know if your product data has changed? So this whole schema represents potentially one product. There's bits of information from that product in each one of the tables here. How do you know what changed? Someone could change a label, someone could change some kind of an attribute that's in an outlier, one of these tables. Unless you're going through and actually checking all the change states on each of these tables, on all the rows for this particular element, and you know which ones are the labels and which ones are not, you really don't know if your product data has changed. And that's a big problem for us, because we have a lot of customers who want us to only send their information or information to them when a product changes. So that's a big challenge. Okay? And I put together an executive summary of dealing with product data in a relational database. I mean, on the left is the potato, and that's what you care about, but on the right is the French fries, and that's what your data ends up looking like. So not the ideal situation at all. And we recognize this at Eaton. So we have a relational product data hub, and we knew from the beginning, even before we deployed it, that getting data was going to be out of it was going to be a challenge. We even created a simplified relational database schema on top of our hub to theoretically make getting the data out simpler. And it still isn't satisfactory at all. It still has the weaknesses that the more complicated schema has. So based on that, we decided, let's move this data into MarkLogic. We've done a lot of work in other projects with the envelope pattern and working with ingesting data into MarkLogic, building envelopes and creating searches. So what we did is we moved the raw product data into MarkLogic. We did an ELT movement, so it's just a real quick query of tables that get copied into MarkLogic in their base form. And then we do transforms, right? So we transform all that raw data into envelopes. We keep the raw data associated with a particular product in its envelope, but we create one envelope for each product. So, and we did some other things because we could. We added a search section, for instance, and we also added all the product metadata. So now we're not talking about just the values, but also the labels, more information about languages or units of measure. All that's in there. So we've got one document now for each product that holds all the information we need. So this is a much better fit. When you use a system like MarkLogic, or MarkLogic in particular, with its document model, now you can add data on the fly. which is great because we didn't get our schema right the first time. We had to add information later, and that's okay. We didn't break anything by adding anything new. The data manipulation tools that come with MarkLogic are exceptional. They work really well. They allow you to work with XML, in our case XML documents, easily. So I mean, you have a language built in, XQuery, that is designed for working with XML. Perfect, right? That's hard to find anywhere else. And then because we put the data all together in one place, now we can do some things that we really never could do before. First off, and in red here, you'll see that we can search the data and the metadata together at the same time, easily. And that's important. You may say, why do you need to search the metadata? Well, you may have products and you may want to do, you know, a quality check on your product data and see if they even have the attribute, as well as what is the value for the attribute. So just even the basics of checking different attributes and do they exist? How many of my products don't have the large image? Doing that kind of a search, that's a big deal. You need to be able to do that quickly, easily. One thing too is, I was just mentioned, when you're using MarkLogic in a situation like this, we didn't have to do a lot of extraneous indexing. The universal index that is used when you automatically when you load an XML into the database works really, really well for what we need. Some other things too. So there's advanced security capabilities with MarkLogic, so you can get redaction or element level security. Those things are also a big deal for us. We have a lot of situations where we need to filter the data depending on who's consuming it. Different distributors get certain sets of data. We might have ITAR data that we need to filter out. That's less of an issue. But our other option for different databases was to have a different copy of the XML for each different security scenario. That really wasn't going to fly with 7 million products. So in this case, we can set up some rules and filter the XML based on those rules. Works really nicely. So, and the big deal, right? With all this data in an XML document, now I can go back and check to see what has changed. Couldn't possibly do that before with the relational database. And it also allows me to do versioning of the entire product data set. So that would almost be like doing a time slice of your relational database whenever one product changed and socking that away, if you could imagine that. That's not even possible with the relational database, but we can do that now with the document model. So with a document model and product data, they just match perfectly. It's a very good idea to use it. Okay. Switching gears here, so I'll talk a little about a different type of data that we have. I talked about the customer-facing data, or what I call that, and using a document model to hold that information. Another issue we have bills of material at Eaton. We have a lot of them. We have a proprietary configuration tool at Eaton that we've had for many years, and it's very popular within Eaton. And over the years, it's grown and grown. We have 400 different types of possible XML configurations in that system right now. So, and this is interesting because the designers of this system actually saw the complexity of the data and they immediately punted on using a relational database. They use XML, so we actually have XML stored in our relational database. The challenge with that is that nobody can get at it. We don't have a tool that can work with it well, right? So anytime someone has wanted to get at the information, they've had to do very expensive one-off limited effort to get data for a particular type of product out and process it. And you know, another thing is we haven't been able to leverage that well with our pricing algorithms. So we have a big demand to do pricing based on the configurations, and see actually how the pricing went based on the configurations. So some of it is creating a price, some of it is checking to see if the price was done correctly in the first place. So that was a big challenge for us, and we decided to use MarkLogic to address this challenge. So what we did is we created a translation system in MarkLogic, and because we have a document model, so we take the XMLs out of our originating system or wherever this configurator is operating. We'll talk about that. We put it into a document in MarkLogic, but we also are able to, in the same database, create a bunch of metadata rules about all the different types of information or branches in these documents that we may need to get access to, right? So the recurring pieces of a product that we need to get at, the child elements and all the nested components, we can specify what elements we want to pull out of any given XML whenever we encounter one of those elements in the metadata. Then we have a translation module that was built to exercise that metadata whenever it encounters an XML document. So, and this was all really quick to do within MarkLogic. It took maybe 3 weeks to do the original, and then we sent it off to our development team to make it, enterprise ready, and that was maybe another 3 or 4 weeks. So it was really quick. We had a team that was going to do this in a relational database, and they estimated like 1.5 man years. So significant difference in the amount of effort. And one of the cool things about this system is that we're able to deal with what I'll call the legacy configurator that we have. So we have an application that runs inside Eaton, and it creates these configurations and puts them in a database, and we go grab them out of the database and translate them. Then we take those translations and push them into our analytics tools, which are more row and column based, obviously. But we also have situations where our configurator is used as a punch out. So someone logs into a website, they're ordering a product, and then when it comes to the configuration part, they punch out to our configurator, create an XML. But then when they hit a button to say they're done with the configuration, they need a price. So with MarkLogic, what we're able to do is provide an API where those punch-out configurators can quickly translate the module, or translate the XML using our translation module, and then send it off to a pricing module and get a price. So that's a couple of milliseconds of work, and they have what they want. And at the same time, we've got one place within Eaton where all these translations are now happening. So we've got the batch happening here, we've got all the real time happening here in one system. So that's really good, and we drive that all through one set of metadata. So we don't have lots of different teams writing separate programs to manage their information. This is a huge win for us here at Eaton, right? So a big deal, and now we've got folks able to go in and analyze our configurations and look at the pricing, or look at just all kinds of things, what regions bought, what voltages bought, whatever. So that's a big deal for us. And that's the last note here, really, is that we can get at this information. There's no human intervention, and the system actually captures metadata changes. I didn't mention that, but we actually, as we encounter each XML document, we scan it and look to see if we found a new data element in the schema. And this is because each of these XMLs is controlled by a different group, so they could change it. We may not hear about it until it hits production. So, but if there is a change, we capture it, and a data steward can go in and make and see what they want to do with that particular metadata element. So it's pretty cool. No human intervention for the most part. Okay. I'll switch gears a little bit, and we'll talk about some of the things we want to do in the future. So the first two things I talked about, the customer-facing data and the bills of material, those are things that we've done. Next steps for us are we have a really ripe area dealing with supplier parts. So at Eaton, we know our products pretty well, right? They have an ID, we can reference them, we get them. When we talk about the things that go into those products, the supplier parts, though, that's a whole different story. It's kind of the wild, wild west. And over on the right here, I have a little diagram to show you, right? So we've got two flathead screws that are in green. And let me see if I can do this right. Here, right here. So we've got two flathead screws. We've got this guy and this guy. Now, they came from different products. They're exactly the same piece. And the challenge we have at Eaton is we've got millions of these. Flathead screws are just one of our bugaboos, but we've, millions of different products that go into other products and they come from suppliers, and we don't know exactly what they are necessarily. But what we want to do is we want to use MarkLogic's smart mastering capabilities. That's something they built into MarkLogic a while back, and develop rules for how to deal with these, so we can create a consistent view of what Eaton calls supplier products. Then we would take that information and put it into a supplier part graph. So down here you can see that we've got supplier part 1, supplier part 2. That references an Eaton supplier part. And then we've got the suppliers involved. And we may even be able to link this to a bill of material, the engineering bill of material, or the manufacturing bill of material, depending on which one. And that ties to a product. So this is now leveraging parts of MarkLogic, going into the semantic modeling and the smart mastering. We think we can do some really good things with this. And then now we can start looking at queries for suppliers and how they relate to a product. And that's a big leap for us. We're not really there right now. How does a supplier affect our products? And what is the product that we need, and what are the alternate suppliers? Things like that. Those are tough questions for us to answer right now. Okay. So that's a future goal for MarkLogic in our product data. And then kind of along the same lines, but maybe more expanded, is our product relationships. So products have product hierarchies. We have products that are superseded. So old products get superseded with a new product. You see that relationship here. Here's a product, so it supersedes this old one here. Right? It replaces a couple of competitor parts. It's the same as a reference or customer part. A lot of our customers create their own product information about our products, and they want us to be able to talk to them in their language, so we need that information. Here's the hierarchy stuff: product families and product groups. Right? Products are they're in sectors or markets, what have you. They are involved in kits, and they may have other products that are involved in those kits. So there's lots of different relationships, and this is really purely a semantics play. And we'd like to be able to manage this information inside MarkLogic, and then make it consumable to our various analytics teams. So we have teams doing machine learning algorithms and things like that on various bits of our data, and they will find this very attractive. They can go in and look at things. Also, one thing we're looking at, and that is, you can see up here they have a linkage document, and we know you can actually create documents that hold the links for a semantic model, and then you can actually keep information about the link itself in a document. So that's going to be important for us, and we'll put that in as well. So at this point, though, our search, if you consider all this together, right, our search becomes really amazing. Now we're looking at competitors, product attributes, all this together. I mean, you can still, in our models, still go and search all the product stuff, but now you can even look at what it's related to. So what 400 amp products do we have that compete with these guys that are in this kit? I don't know. You can go crazy with the different kinds of searches that you do. So, and really, that's what it's all about for us with MarkLogic and our product data, is the capabilities of MarkLogic. And this is me as an enterprise architect. I find this very attractive. Right? I can knock out with MarkLogic several different boxes in one of my architecture diagrams just by using its capabilities. Right? So, using the document database, I I can deal with the data complexity. I've got the graph database to deal with the relationships. I've got the API server so I can do the real-time stuff very easily, ridiculously easily, right? I've got a search engine. Now I don't have to dump my data into yet another box that does the searches, right? And then when I do that, I have to deal with the time lag of the information. And then I've got all the great tools that are built into MarkLogic to deal with processing the data. So I call that the integration layer. And also there's the right, all the ingestion tools that MarkLogic provides. So MarkLogic for us and our product data has been a great win. So anyway, thanks for listening. I hope you got something meaningful out of this. I wish we could be together and talk about it, live and in person. But until that next time, this will have to do. Thank you very much. Bye.